Mr. Chen, first of all, we are very happy to house you here after more than 30 years of your first visit in 1984, together with Yehudi Menuhin and the Polish Chamber Orchestra. So could you say a few words about your meetings with Menuhin for the beginning?
Well, my meetings with Mr. Menuhin, particularly in 1984 when we visited here, was a very special one. I believe that was the first time he had come to Poland also. And I was very young, and in fact I was so naive. At the time, London, where I was living, we had spring temperature in April. But when we got here, it was freezing cold. And I remember the orchestra manager, he was so kind, he gave me his coat to keep me. And that was the first thing that happened. But the most incredible thing was we had 3 concerts in 2 days. And Menuhin originally wanted to see some of Poland between the concerts. So he said before we came, we must go by car and see the countryside. But we were told the journey would be 5-6 hours by car on roads that weren't particularly good. And then Mr. Menuhin said, no, we must fly. We don't have enough time, we must fly. Anyway, orchestra manager, he went totally white. But Mr. Menuhin, there are no commercial flights in the weekends here in Poland. But Mr. Menuhin said, no, we must fly. Anyway, this went on then for about 3-4 hours. But at the end, with all these phone calls, we had a private jet to take us anywhere in Poland that weekend. So he knew, he was always pushing against things like this.
Was it the first time that you played together with Yehudi Menuhin?
I played the Bach double with him many times. And also what was the Polish Chamber Orchestra also a few times. But I think that may have been the first time. I was quite scared, being inexperienced more than anything else. But he was a very assured musician, and he could calm things down and make you feel at ease. And the orchestra was wonderful. I remember everything just into place. So it was a very special time for me.
And now, after 32 years, you play for the second time in Warsaw again, the Bach double concerto, now in the opposite role with a gifted boy from Taiwan. What can you say about him, about playing with him?
Well, I've only seen Darwin twice now, so it's relatively short. He's really sweet, and only 13 years old. I think he's really amazing, and he's playing beautifully, playing very well, and it's been enjoyable working with him. It's going really well, and I think it's fabulous, and it really reminds me of why the Menuhin School is such a wonderful place to nurture these young people and the support they have. These youngsters are encouraged, and they're pushed, they're encouraged, but they have the support. And I think it's a wonderful thing that they do. And I look forward, to tomorrow's concert with Darwin. And I have to keep it in check a little bit because we're doing the Sibelius in the first half, and that's a heavy piece for the violin. Pretty heavy piece in sound also in particular. It's quite thick orchestration, very symphonic. So the violin has to work hard to be heard. So I'll be a little bit drained after that, and then to refocus for the Bach, and doing the Bach for the first time, and with this strong memory. So I need to sleep well tonight.
How it was to perform together with Yehudi Menuhin?
It was actually quite easy because he was always so expressive that you knew exactly what was going to happen. You want to be with him. It was easy playing with him. Second violin, I always play second with Mr. Menuhin. And we probably played it about a dozen times or so, maybe a bit more. And it was always a happy thing to do, and at such a high level of not just playing, just the communication and delivery. He never stopped searching. And again, typical of him, he never ever stopped searching for even better music-making solutions and to make it work better. And, every single rehearsal, even if it's the same piece, he will come up with ideas and test things to make sure we are doing our best. It means a lot to me.
So you didn't realize how important it would be for the future of the orchestra, I suppose. Were you aware that the concert has a special importance for Polish musicians, for the orchestra? No.
The importance was just coming into, after I left, what was an iron block country. That almost seemed impossible to me as a youngster. I was... In those days, I still had a Taiwanese passport, so just to travel with that passport was really difficult, even just to go to England. It was extraordinary. It really struck home after I left for the things that had happened. And then we also had security people with us wherever we went, as on this tour also. We had a 1.5 hours time in Krakow to, would go shopping and have a look around the market. Anyway, we got there, and Mrs. Menuhin, would go shopping and have a look around the market. Anyway, they went, and the security men went with her. But she lost them. And he turned around after the security men. They lost her. So there was obviously a plan, to see how far they could push those boundaries, the system in those days.
He was so exceptional man, not only a musician, but also a human being. And what are your personal memories of him as a man?
He was always so warm and kind to me in every way. I mean, he helped me musically, as a student, and encouraged me, even when I turned professional, to always gave me opportunities to play with orchestras and so on. And he was very much more than a father figure to me. He led and looked after me. That was such a vital thing for somebody like me who's not a Westerner to begin with, and to be accepted, And you realize, and this is his philosophy, you treat people as people. And this is the important part. Music, there are no boundaries.
So that was your first time that you met him?
I met him further back when I was 11, back in 1976. I was living in San Francisco at the time, and he came to here to audition me as part of the American Bicentennial celebrations. There was a special scholarship, and I was the West Coast finalist. And I had never met him before this. I had to go to this really, really special hotel, penthouse, to see Menuhin. And I was expecting, somebody scary and tough and everything, but he was so warm, friendly in his slippers and jumper. And I played my audition pieces, and he said, "Please come to my school," and that's my very first meeting with Mr. Menuhin. I mean, I'm his second ever pupil. He never accepted more personal pupils after that. It was Alberto Lisi and myself. And the others, he taught many people. He helped many people. But after that, he was too busy. And he didn't really want that responsibility. But he was always helping others, other musicians. There are many others I know he's helped a lot over the years, even the Menuhin School students. But to actually be a personal pupil, I mean, even the students at school, Menuhin School, it was only an occasional thing for them. And when I was studying there, it was only occasional for me. But after I left school, he took me on as a personal pupil. And I'm only grateful because I was just so lucky to have that opportunity, play to him that often. It was what I wanted to learn more from him. And he was just so inspirational all the time.
It must have been a really great privilege, a great experience for you to study at the Menuhin School. What's so exceptional about this? What makes it so unique?
Well, it's the ideas. I mean, there are a few schools now that are based on this idea, but in those days, it was very much unique of its own. But even though you can bring, a group of very fine youngsters, talented musicians together and give them as good an education and support as you can, I think having Menuhin to be the backbone in the ethos and philosophy and guidance. I think just the inspiration of such a great person, human being and musician, really made a huge difference to the quality of the school and to the way even how well the students approached their work, and how you enjoyed music and so on. It was done at such a high level, and yet it was as though it's the most normal thing to do. And that's what makes it very special.
He was a kind of a artistic and spiritual guru. Although there were many great violinists, like Heifetz, for example, or Schering, or many others, what was so exceptional about him that people remember him with such a warm feeling? What was so exceptional about his art, about his approach to music?
The very first thing I would say is when you hear any recordings of Menuhin, you know it's Menuhin. His character, his sound, it's all to do with sound. And he had such an individual and strong singing sound. It's not easy to make a violin sound beautiful, but yet to sing, really sing and express through every emotion and through the instrument. We all try our best, but Menuhin had this. He was, as a musician, I think he was so far ahead of so many other violinists. There, like you say, I listen to Heifetz as much as Menuhin, and many, many other great violinists. But Menuhin somehow took making music a little further, because the violin is such a difficult instrument to play. But it was so natural to him to play that he wasn't worried about the playing side. He would communicate more. And I think, for me, that's the main difference. And his particular sound, it was so singing, very persuasive. Other violinists made beautiful sound. Heifetz, some recordings are absolutely, I think, in the number one. I'd really adore. But Menuhin was an all-rounder. He could play a lot of different music and be very communicative in a human way. And I think that's a very rare thing, because you need so much ability to play the violin, but to really communicate, you have to be free from those abilities or restrictions. And also the modern day, we were used to listening to recordings, and you can play safe and secure and to be tough. Whereas Menuhin, you always felt he was on the edge a little bit, and it could go wrong, but it's very live and special. And so when he was playing his best, I don't think many people touched him. But he could play badly too sometimes. But we forgave him because he never stopped trying. Everybody tries their best, and nobody's perfect. But your duty is to the music and to share that music, to communicate the music. I think Menuhin, for me, really achieved this communication, not just with the playing of the violin, but as a person. And that's what made him so special.
What you said made me think about you as a genuine heir of Yehudi Menuhin philosophy and approach to music. Are you trying to pursue his ideas in your teaching work? Is it possible?
No. The ideas are well documented, his ideas. And Menuhin, as a teacher, sometimes he couldn't get his ideas across. He always had wonderful ideas. I'm not saying anything else, but sometimes he had ideas that were so deep in his mind and in his ways that others would find it difficult to understand. But as I got older, I understood them better. And for me, the thing I like to use more now is the positives rather than the negative. Even nowadays, I teach a fair amount now. I have two quite independent careers, teaching and performing. And they come together. But teaching can often be a little bit severe. And so I've gone down that route, which I think Menuhin gave me, and my other tutor, Robert Masters. Is just good listening and figuring out ways for each individual rather than having just a method. And Menuhin was groundbreaking, So I understand where he was coming from. I mean, I would say many people are carrying what Menuhin has passed down. I mean, I was just fortunate. I knew him well, and well enough for me to really learn a lot from, both musically and also mechanically, technically, because he was very different from other schools and methods himself. He in himself was very convincing, but it doesn't work if you just copy him. You have to make sure it feels like yours.
I suppose you have a lot of plans in the special year commemorating Yehudi Menuhin's anniversary. Can you say a few words about it?
Well, I think Menuhin is such a global name. You know, it's the one name in not just violin, but in classical music most people will recognize. And I think the best way to remember him is just this freshness and to serve the music. I think that was the number one thing. And I like to do this as my main thing. And I would hope Mr. Menuhin would agree with me that when we play, that we have the composers that we're playing in the hall with us, and that we're here to do our best to deliver what they want, what the composers have given us. And you'll probably never be 100% happy, but you'll try. You will always do better, and maybe even practice better, because they're sat in the room with us, you know. And that's our task, and it's never ending. But it gives us great pleasure and satisfaction to work to get closer to what the music needs us to do for. And I think in the modern day, we often lose sight of this. You know, we also, the modern era, we like things to be more perfect, or absolutely perfect. But we often lose some of this artistry that people, these older people, that generation of people, Heifetz, Menuhin, you know, they had some magic, which I think we don't always appreciate nowadays. And we like, human beings, we like certainty, yes or no. But with music, but in reality, it's not quite yes or not quite no. And I think Menuhin showed this to us, that everything is possible. And we have to know every color, because that's what the composers demand from us. You know, it's not just to be right. It's, well, have I read the score properly? And you keep looking at it, you keep reading it, and you'll find that maybe it means this, maybe it means that, and you will test it till you get closer. And that's, you know, that's what I was taught to do. And at the school too, just you never read it less than your best ability. And then you'll do it again and again, and then you'll get closer. And then you start to understand what it's about, and have a little more confidence in delivering the music from good reading and understanding. And not just the music, of what it's trying to say in human terms.
Thank you very much for this very inspirational interview. All the best for tomorrow's concerts, for your future, for your career and life. And see you again in Poland.
Thank you so much. Thank you.